Well, Oliver Farry from our International Affairs Desk is with me here on set. Oliver, Israel's refused to stop bombing Lebanon, yet the talks are still going ahead. Not everyone, perhaps not surprisingly in Lebanon, happy about this. Hezbollah just basically saying already they think they should be cancelled and they're not going to abide by anything that comes out of them anyway.
Yes, and this was not in any way a surprise. This had been built up by even the Speaker of the Lebanese Parliament, who is constitutionally from the Shiite community in Lebanon, had been saying this for several weeks. Hezbollah don't want anything to do with the talks. Their leader, Naim Qasem, urged Lebanon to withdraw from the talks in his address on Monday night, while Wafik Safa, a high-ranking member of the group's political bureau, said Hezbollah would not abide by the talks. So this raises a lot of questions over what chance at all they have of succeeding. The two countries did make initial contact last week in a phone call between their respective ambassadors to Washington. That's their first direct contact since 1983, and of course the two countries have never had formal diplomatic relations. The three main issues, all of which appear intractable, are the cessation of Israeli attacks, which of course is not currently on the cards, the disarmament of Hezbollah, which Lebanon has pledged to do but says cannot be done overnight, and the withdrawal of Israeli troops from southern Lebanon. And the fact that Israel has refused to stop bombing Lebanon alone casts the talks prospects in doubt. Israel continued to attack Hezbollah positions in southern Lebanon on Monday, with fighting around Bint Bel, which caused the death of one Israeli soldier. And it pointedly increased its attacks on Lebanon the day after the Iranian ceasefire was announced last week. That was the deadliest day in the 6-week bombing of of Lebanon so far, killing hundreds of people, and a total of about 2,100 people in Lebanon have been killed in the last 6 weeks.
There are reports, aren't there, that it was Donald Trump who pressured Israel to take part in these talks. But is there any real will, if you like, from Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister?
It's fair to say there's no will whatsoever. Israel's aim is to crush Hezbollah. It knows that Lebanon is not capable right now of disarming the Shiite militia, but it's not refraining from attacking the country either. And Israel issues its habitual disclaimers, like its Defense Minister Israel Katz did in recent days, that it is targeting and killing Hezbollah militants, but there is an indiscriminate nature to its bombings. In particular, in this conflict, unlike previous ones, it has widened its targets to beyond traditional Hezbollah strongholds. So while Washington might see the benefit of closing off this particular front, because it does actually risk inflaming the war with Iran. Again, this is something that Iran has actually demanded in the talks in Islamabad, that there be a ceasefire in the Lebanon war. Israel has no real interest in doing so. It thinks it can decapitate Hezbollah, but of course we've seen over the last 18 months that is easier said than done, even for Israel. And Hezbollah's very absence from these talks, not that anyone would have expected them to sit down with Israel anyway, means that the negotiations are taking place with the Lebanese state, which cannot feasibly speak or act on behalf of the group that Israel is ostensibly targeting.
Is there any way to be positive? I mean, who is actually taking part in the talks in the first place?
Well, the respective delegations today will be led by the ambassadors of the two countries to Washington. That's Nada Hamad Emwaed for Lebanon and Yechiel Leiter for Israel. And the US ambassador to Lebanon, Michel Issa, will also represent the US, though it has been announced that Marco Rubio will also be there, so it's quite possible that he might actually be the man in the hot seat there. These talks are also preliminary in nature. They will be mainly focused on reaching a truce, not exactly a ceasefire per se, but a temporary one, so that more in-depth talks can actually proceed at a later date. Now, interestingly, these negotiations would then be led by two other former ambassadors to the United States, Simon Karam for Lebanon and Ron Dermer for Israel, who is also a former Israeli minister. Each of those have been involved in high-ranking negotiations in the past. Now, those talks would take place in a third country. That could be the United States or somewhere else. We don't know for sure yet. Now, of course, none of this will happen, of course, if the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah does not stop. And while there are plenty of people in Lebanon, particularly among the country's Christian and Sunni communities, angry at Hezbollah for dragging the country into the war, they would say unnecessarily, there's very little any of them can do to exert pressure on Hezbollah, much less exert pressure on Israel, which will continue to target.